Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
I will end you. What if I did? Yes. Well, you know, I want you to know I'm not fucking around. Just
own the rest of the numbers.
yes. You get your 3 numbers, I get everything else ad infinitum, and you're gonna be happy with it.
I don't know. I might have to seize the means of this number.
Seize the means of counting.
Yes.
And on that note, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. This one's being uploaded later in the day, and it's all Steve's fault. So we're here today to do another character video. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is, of course, Steve Baxley, whose fault it is. Steve,
13,
what character
14,
are we
15.
discussing? Fuck you. What character are we
16,
discussing
17,
today?
18.
Fuck you so much. Steve, what character are we discussing, goddammit?
We're talking about Jack Frost.
Indeed. And so why'd you pick Jack Frost?
Partly because... Did you ever watch that movie, Rise of the Guardians?
Yes, we did a review of it last year.
Okay, I really like that movie. I hate everyone that's become obsessed with it, but I really like that movie, and that's kind of about it.
Why do you hate people that have become obsessed with Rise of the Guardians?
Because it's that annoying anime subculture of let's now ship Jack Frost with everyone and make it annoying and emo and things like that.
Well, Jack Frost only has one proper shipping, and that's Elsa. So
Yeah.
let's just end this conversation now. I at one point signed a petition to see a sequel of that movie. I don't think it'll ever happen, but hey,
Oh
takes
god,
me
no.
2
It
seconds.
didn't do very well.
It didn't do well at box office, but I think it picked up a lot in DVD sales.
Oh no, it did. Given its budget and given its DVD sales and stuff, it did fine. It just didn't do as well as, was it Paramount?
DreamWorks.
Okay, yeah. Well, DreamWorks is owned by Paramount, but yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But anyway, so Jack Frost is one of those characters, like, he appears in a number of things, but he's never consistently characterized.
No, literally never.
And that's really interesting, you know, because, like, when we talk about other holiday characters, you know, Frosty, pretty, you know, consistently characterized good guy kind of thing. Who else? Santa, of course, obviously very consistent. Father
Rudolph.
Time. Yeah, Rudolph consistent across multiple versions. Like, even when they parody these things, it's still consistent. Whereas Jack Frost is like, just, it's not even that there's any folklore attached to Jack Frost, right? It's just the notion of some kind of winter spirit.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of a really basic winter elemental.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of cool on its own. The way those older stories worked was that Jack Frost was more of like a title, and Jack Frost is the Eurocentric way of like whatever he originally was in Arabic. So I like that idea of the original Jack Frost. The original Jack Frost myth would just be a way of like explaining the burden of the cold as if the person giving it also doesn't have a choice, and they're just kind of like embodying the cold. And then over time it became like a physical person doing it, and you get the whole nursery rhyme of Jack Frost nipping at your nose and all that.
Mm-hmm. And see, it's interesting just to talk about all the different versions of him, because like he was like the hero, the main hero in Rise of the Guardians, right?
I think so. Yeah.
He had a claymation special in the same way that Rudolph and Frosty did. But at the same time, the Santa Claus 3, he's the villain. And I haven't seen that movie, but I just know that he's the villain of that movie.
Who's playing him in that?
Martin Short, I think. Maybe not.
Is it Martin Short? It has to be Martin Short. Yeah, now that you're saying that, it can't be anyone else.
I mean, I don't want to commit to that.
No, I'm just thinking about the trailers of that movie in my head, and I'm like, that had to be Martin Short. Okay, yeah, no, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah, he's characterized really differently all throughout. He's very different in Rise of the Guardians. He's different in the Claymation thing. And then, even when you look at, like, comic books, because he's been in comics, he's either a title or some other weird sci-fi character, or, like, even across... He's appeared in Marvel twice, and both times he's very different.
That's weird. That's really, really weird.
Yeah, I don't... And particularly for me, I remember as a kid watching the Michael Keaton movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah, someone mentioned that that they'd be disappointed if we didn't bring that up, and I just want to say... That is not a movie about Jack Frost. That is a Frosty the Snowman live-action film.
No, I agree with you. It's got nothing to do with Jack Frost, but it's called Jack Frost.
Right? It's so weird. It is literally Frosty the Snowman, the live-action film, which it makes so much more sense as. On that note, though, with that movie, so back in days of old, I went to video stores when I was a child, and...
The fuck is a video store?
Yeah, exactly, where you rented videos. And I saw a copy of Jack Frost. It said Jack Frost. It had a snowman on the cover. And so I pulled, like, they'd have, like, the case with the box art, and behind it they'd have just blank cases with just, like, either blank tapes or blank DVDs. I'm old enough that I can say it was a blank tape. So I pulled the blank tape out, and I gave it to my mom. She says, "What's this?" And I say, "It's Jack Frost." And this was shortly after the Michael Keaton movie came out. And she's like, "Oh, okay." So she rents it for me, and it was not that. It was the horror movie Jack Frost, wherein, like, a snowman rapes somebody. And I should not have watched that as a child, but I did.
Did those two come out, like, right by each other, too, if I remember right?
More or less. Like, they're both... There's not much distance. I'm pretty sure they made Jack Frost 2 just to capitalize on the fact that the Michael Keaton one came out.
The Wikipedia for this kind of cements our point of... I clicked on the article for Jack Frost, the Keaton movie, and right before you even get to the summary, it says, not to be confused with Jack Frost 1997, Jack Frost 1964, Jack Frost 1979, Jack Frost 1997, Jack Frost 1964, or the person Jack Frost.
Yeah.
Like, damn, what do any of these movies have to do with each other?
Nothing besides just using the name Jack Frost.
Yeah, that's partly why I want to talk about him as a character, is that I don't know if he is a character.
And that's interesting, because there are these things like that where it's like, yes, they exist and they get mentioned and brought up again and again, but it is so ethereal. Like, I don't think anyone's done the definitive Jack Frost.
I don't think there is such a thing as a definitive Jack Frost. What would that mean now?
Well, I guess in my mind, what you would have to do to create the definitive version of something is create the version of him where no one thinks of anything else, you know?
Or at the very least, create the version that people think they remember, despite it never existing.
Yeah.
Kind of like the that Frankenstein movie that came out from Max Landis, where, like, I feel like if you ask anyone who Jack Frost is, they're not going to say Michael Keaton or the horror movie or Rise of the Guardians. They're going to think of more along that animated special, or just like some dude who goes around and it's cold and he's a winter elemental. And doing that vaguely enough but clear enough could be a definitive Jack Frost.
Yeah, you know, I think Jack Frost is yet to be Coca-Cola, right? As far as, like, holiday figures go. And so, yeah, it would be interesting to see if someone could come along and do that at some point. I just don't know. I don't know, like, what it would take, especially after Rise of the Guardians not doing, you know, well in the box office, and so they're not going to make more versions of that character.
Well, and to be fair, I think Rise of the Guardians was also marketed more on its other characters than it was Jack himself.
Which is weird, because he's the main character.
Yeah, no, I remember the main reason I saw that movie was badass Russian Santa Claus.
Yes, entirely. For badass Russian Santa Claus with naughty nice tattoos.
Yeah,
that was
honestly,
entirely
that was the coolest fucking thing.
Yeah, and, like, he's great in it, but he's not the main character, and it's just weird not to, like, to do a whole movie. And you know, there's some power in that when like it's like when someone takes over a character that is in comics that is yet to have their definitive version.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Johns, of course, did this with Green Lantern. You can name other characters people have done this with. Wasn't
Bendis,
Jessica
man.
Bendis with
Purple Man.
who? Purple Man, yeah. There all the time this happens, and then like someone comes around and does the definitive version. It's just a question of like, who the hell's going to publish a Jack Frost story?
Well, and maybe this opens up another question of when we've done Jack Frost, except it wasn't Jack Frost, because I'm really wondering what the difference is between
Jack Frost and Coldmeister?
Well, Jack Frost and Coldmeister is another good one, but I was thinking more along the lines of Jack Frost and the Snow Queen or Elsa.
Okay.
Because really, how different is that?
Well, I
And
think...
what came first?
Yeah. I think with Jack Frost, it's more that he's more just attached to the element, and he's not good or evil. Whereas
Depends on which version, right? Because even the Snow Queen's not quite like that, depending on which version of that you're reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, how is Jack Frost just different than anyone with winter elemental powers?
Yeah. Particularly because you can't anchor Jack Frost in any, this is where he first showed up. At the very least, you can say Snow Queen's definitive by Hans Christian Andersen.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily true, but that's the clearest example you'd have outside of Elsa.
Yeah. God, I was always disappointed Elsa didn't end up being the villain. It would have been such a better movie.
I agree. But then also, like the Bible has a whole passage about a winter elemental that both stories pull from, depending on what you're reading. I don't know what passage. I've never read a Bible, but still. He says as he's sipping alcohol.
You heathen bastard. Yeah, that is something that's really interesting, because, like, what would you have to do to make Jack Frost different than an elemental? Does it have to be that his powers are, like, earth magic based? Like, do they have to be given to him, or...
I don't know. Like I said, I like to think of it as a title more along the lines of those early Arabic stories, but again, no consistency. There wasn't a mythology back then.
Yeah. It's just a really weird thing to talk about. So, okay, what would you... Let's take this to an interesting direction that we try not to go to too often here on Geeky Gentlemen, but I think it's justified here. Steve Baxi. What's a good studio for this? Boom, since they're publishing Klaus for Morrison. Boom Studios calls you up one day and they say, "Hello, Mr. Steve Baxi," and you say, "Hello, Boom Studios," and Boom Studios says, "We want you to write us the definitive Jack Frost for a 12-issue limited series." What do you do? What's your pitch, Steve?
So my pitch for Jack Frost would be more along the lines of Sandman. Except it wouldn't be one endless that you're following from beginning to end. It would be almost like Sandman meets Tim Allen's Santa Claus, where these endless ancient eternal beings exist, but they can also die and pass on to someone else, and you'd get that with some random person that, through no sheer form of destiny or will or greater universal plan, just ends up being Jack Frost because the other one died. And it would be very much along the lines of, you are a winter elemental, but at the same time, it's not like you are consciously the one creating all the winter. You just have control over it, kind of thing. Where you're both are and are not the essence of cold, and however you would want to define that. He would have power over fire, too, because fire can be so hot it's cold.
Interesting.
I would want to make it super, super metaphysical and as vague as possible, because the whole idea of elementals is really vague and bizarre.
Yeah.
Because ever since the four elementals as a ancient concept has always been cool, but like the more you kind of break down what each thing is, they can't exist without the other. So like, what is fire as an element without air? And what is air without earth? What is earth without water, you know? Like, they're not isolated in any coherent way.
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. Also, kudos to you for being bold enough to go, oh yeah, I'm going to write my first comic series and try to make it Sandman.
Basically.
Yeah.
I have that much faith in myself.
Oh, totally. That sounds like the worst mistake you could make.
I'll just call Neil Gaiman to be like, so you want to write this for me? You get to do it again.
What have you been up to lately, Neil Gaiman, huh? I mean, honestly.
Look, you lost your showrunners for American Gods. Good Omens is probably going to get canceled before it even gets off the ground. Just write this.
Yeah, I could see it. Okay. For me, I think what I would like to do with Jack Frost is similar to you with like a legacy thing where it gets handed down from character to character, and that would be nice because it would account for all the various versions you see in different media. I wouldn't make it quite as lofty and metaphysical as all that. I think I'd just make it more like gets handed down from character to character, but like more in just a like kind of sweet memories of winter kind of way.
Yeah.
Like in my head right now, I'm imagining that like you could easily have a Calvin and Hobbes crossover with this version of Jack Frost.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, because like so much like the spirit of winter, the spirit of like winter fun kind of thing. And that was one of the things I liked about Rise of the Guardians is like he was the one that was like letting kids have fun with the snowballs and the sledding and all that stuff. So I do kind of like that where like it gets passed down from person to person. Always children that like died too young in winter is like that's when you always start and you kind of age naturally to a point. And until you're ready to like be at peace and give it up. So kind of be like a winter ghost in a weird way.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. I think that could be a really, really interesting way to go with it. Because again, yeah, there's just so much room to play around with something that's like vaguely got like so few check marks to be what it has to be, right? Like we talk about this with Batman. What does Batman have to do to be Batman? He has to dress like a bat and fight crime.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm actually just like scrolling through the Wikipedia page on Jack Frost because I'm curious to see where he first showed up. And apparently Jack Frost himself is a derivative of Old Man Winter. So what the fuck is Old Man Winter? Sorry, go ahead.
That's a guy that gets like mentioned a lot too. And again, it's just like this very vague personification of the season change, right?
Well, and part of what I like about mythology in general is the way you can kind of like linguistically pull this together. So there are, according to this article, other ancient deities of winter that in somewhere along their name it gets translated to frost. And so the idea of Jack Frost would just be, I can't pronounce whatever this is from ancient Greek. I'm just going to call it Jack Frost.
That's cool.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
The Russian substitute for Santa Claus is Ded Moroz, which is literally translated to Grandfather Frost. See, like that kind of thing where the coherent identity of this character is so fluid, and it seems like every culture has got their own version.
Yeah. Huh. Weird. It's a different, like, I did not expect to get this in depth into just mythology.
Well, I mean,
talking about
partly
Jack
why this
Frost.
is a better pick than Rudolph's, to your point from last week.
Yeah, like, how are you going to talk about Rudolph for half an hour?
That nursery rhyme is kind of racist and capitalist.
Oh my god. Let me just throw this idea out here. Maybe you're just putting too much thought into it. Maybe it's capitalist and racist, or maybe you're just thinking too much about it.
Maybe.
It's like a 50-50, I promise.
Do you remember anything with Jack Frost in it that you particularly liked outside of that Michael Keaton movie? Because as we both established, that it's just Frosty the Snowman. Who is coherently different from Jack Frost. I feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah, I agree. I remember, for what it was worth, when I was a kid, enjoying the Jack Frost animated special, because like took place on Groundhog Day, and he was helping the groundhog see his shadow, so that he'd get 6 more months. Yeah. Like I remember that, and I remember enjoying it while I was a kid. I don't know if it holds up. I imagine not, but it's meant for kids to enjoy, so it did its job. What else?
There was this Frosty the Snowman Christmas special, because it has to be a Christmas special, where I think Andy Griffith was in it. This we used to play on ABC all the time, where Frosty was in the North Pole and him and Jack Frost were friends. And they were, I think, looking for Frosty's hat or something like that. It was really short and it was on ABC, but that was the first big one where, like, outside of that claymation thing, Frosty and Jack Frost were coherent characters for me.
Gotcha. That's interesting. Why do you think that, like, we have a billion Santa movies, but we don't do more with this character that hasn't had, a big version used? Like, why do you think people don't use Jack Frost all the time?
Probably because people know who Santa is in a way they don't with Jack Frost. I think the whole direction of this conversation is the motivation behind not doing more with Jack Frost, because you have to work at building who that is in a way you don't with Santa ever since Coca-Cola.
True. But, like, wouldn't you say that if if Coca-Cola hadn't worked at Santa, we wouldn't have Santa as Santa, right?
Oh, no, I agree, absolutely. It's just
That's
someone
so
has
weird.
to do the Coca-Cola thing with Jack Frost, and no one wants to be the person to do it.
Man, that's a really good point, because, like, how many things could just use a mascot? Like,
Yeah.
What was it I saw? It was years ago now. Like, I'm going to say 2011, but there used to be a Pepsi commercial where Santa was drinking Pepsi, but it was
That's
in
horrible.
July. Yeah, but it was in July, so they're being all subversive and shit. They're like, they were talking, wait, doesn't Santa drink Coke? And they go, only in winter for a promotional deal. What he really likes when he's off is Pepsi. And I'm just like,
That's clever as fuck.
it is on a certain level, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that's a lot of legwork. That is a lot of legwork for a commercial. And if anything, it's more of an anti-Coke ad than it is a Pepsi ad, which is just weird. But anyway, like, why doesn't Pepsi adopt Jack Frost? Or why doesn't literally any other, brand, food, soda, whatever, adopt Jack Frost as their winter mascot?
I mean, there were a lot of generic things, too, that, like, ice bags have polar bears. Why can't they have Jack Frost?
Yeah. I don't see why more things, like, don't do the legwork on Jack Frost, because he seems perfectly viable. I mean, like, half the job is done for you. Like, how many mascot characters for companies can you name off the top of your head that only exist for the company?
That only exist for the company?
Yeah. Do you think you can get 5 off the top of your head?
The mouse thing from Chuck E. Cheese.
So
Is his name just Chuck E. Cheese?
Chuck E. Cheese, yes.
Yeah, I guess his name is just Chuck E. Cheese. The Geico Gecko. Flo from Progressive.
I can finish the last 2 if you want.
Sure.
Energizer Bunny, Chester Cheeto.
Is Energizer Bunny even a thing anymore, though?
I mean, I've seen him used a little bit. He's had a commercial recently.
Okay, I guess I just haven't seen Energizer Bunny in a while.
Yeah. Well, anyway, like, those are all things that, like, but it takes work to get a named character in, like, the public conscious. So you already have half the work done for you in that people, like, recognize the name Jack Frost, and it takes very little visual cues to communicate this character as Jack Frost. And, like, he seems almost perfect for a drink ad, because it'd be like, man, warm soda in the middle of winter. What the hell's going on? Jack Frost just comes over, touches your can, bam, cold soda.
Yeah, he's kind of a universal symbol, particularly for soda commercials, but ultimately the key for something like this is just repetition, right? Just have him show up over and over again, and the mythology builds itself because of the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, internet will do half your advertising for you nowadays if you can get a character that's, like, memeable in a, polite way.
Memeable in a way that doesn't turn into porn, like that insurance commercial woman with the pink hair. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. The, what was Esurance?
Esurance, yeah.
Well, that's just because cartoon porn has become ridiculously easy over the last few decades.
No, I agree. But I mean, you'd have to be able to control it in a way that he doesn't turn into Jack Frost from Rise of the Guardians or Esurance, whatever her name was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Which I don't think is impossible, but it's a thing they'd have to consider.
Yeah, it's just weird that like no one's really taken off with this. I mean, like, what if we're wrong though? What if someone has and we've just not noticed like these Jack Frost commercials? Like, I don't watch a lot of like TV with commercials nowadays, but I'm gonna be like hounding every commercial I see to see if Jack Frost shows up, and I've just never noticed him before.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if they're doing it wrong because I haven't figured it out.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, if someone could come along and this is like totally fine for advertisers to do it and companies to do, in my opinion. Come along, kind of adopt the character, take them off as their wintertime mascot, and just go with them, then that would help build the character's presence of mind for people, and then we'd probably get more Jack Frost-related media.
Yeah. Which would be cool, because I think Jack Frost is not tied to the holidays. He's tied to the holidays. He's tied to the atmosphere.
Yeah, so he'd be a good, like, late November till March character to use.
Yeah, and also just in particular where, like, he also doesn't have the Christian connotation of something like Santa or anything Christmas-related.
Yeah.
Like, Jack Frost is a very liberating thing to just use and throw in. Plus, he doesn't belong to any pantheon, really, so he could just show up in a Thor comic if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And then equally be there in a Wonder Woman comic.
Mm-hmm. Man. We need some more Jack Frost. I'd be down for this. This could be cool to see.
Yeah, it's just a cool name, too. I think Jack Frost kind of rolls off the tongue really well.
Yeah, and that's kind of why it like shows up in that song.
Yeah.
Okay, what else can we talk about for like roughly 4 minutes?
Roughly 4 minutes. So, out of curiosity, do you like any of those, what are they called? Those, they're not like Filmation, but like the stop motion Christmas movies.
Claymation?
Yeah, Claymation. Do you like any of those? Do you think any of them are like legitimately good in any way? Particularly the one with Jack Frost?
I mean, the last time I watched one was for the very first Geeky Gentleman Christmas commentary, and that was the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and all I ended up doing was making fun of it. Like, I think you can only watch them and enjoy them as they're meant to be enjoyed when you're a kid.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think they're meant to be gone back to.
I have not seen any of them in like 15 years.
Yeah, like they were made in a time where cartoons and stuff were only for kids, and like they didn't even try to make adults like them. Like I remember watching one at one point, and my mom laughed at exactly one joke, it was the Santa origin one, and he's like dealing with I think it's Old Man Winter actually. He's dealing with Old Man Winter, and like these enchanted trees are trying to attack Kris Kringle, and eventually Old Man Winter calls him off and he says, "Oh, you'll have to forgive them. Their bark is worse than their bite." And he found that really funny because they're trees. And that was like that is the one joke my mom laughed at. And I'm
I
like,
got a good joke. It's just kind of a smirky one.
Yeah, exactly. And so like they were just made in a time where cartoons and stuff were only for kids. So you can't. I don't think it's fair to go back to them as an adult and expect much out of them.
No, that's fair. I guess I'm just kind of curious because now that we're talking about Jack Frost as a cool idea, I kind of want to go back and see if he was any good in that or if he was unique in that in any way.
He had like
the only unique
design.
Jack Frost that come to mind at this point are Rise of the Guardians and Santa Claus 3.
Yeah, he had a kind of unique design. Like he was all blue, if I'm remembering it correctly, and he had like a crown. That was kind of neat. I think he like made it. No, I think he flew by whistling, if I remember that correctly.
That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's talk design wise. We talked like what we would do with Jack Frost. How would you design Jack Frost?
In line with the concept I pitched, or just in general?
Just in general.
Just in general. I kind of like the whole dresses almost like an elf, except in a lot more neutral colors, like a lot of blue and a lot of white, maybe even a little black thrown in. Because the elf look for an elemental keeps sort of the Christmassiness, but also has it neutral enough that where he can use it for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I also just wouldn't want it to be like superhero tights because I don't think that's universal enough.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I'd go for like the white hair, like really, really bright blue eyes to the point where they almost look white as well.
Yeah.
And as far as like outfit wise, I don't think I'd do a ton with like rooting the outfit in any one thing. I've just like generally go like he kind of dresses with the times, if that makes sense.
Well, and this is another thing with Rise of the Guardians Jack Frost I really like, where he looks like Jack Frost, whatever that means, but he looks like a kid from the mid-2000s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I think that'll do it for this episode. Do we have anything to recommend for Jack Frost besides Rise of the Guardians?
I have not watched Santa Claus 3. I don't even know if I watched it when it came out, so maybe that if you're curious, because Martin Short's always funny.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next week we'll be discussing Krampus.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah. Alright, everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Exile.
And we are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas!
One, two, 3.
4, 5, 6.
7, 8, 9. Cool,
10,
cool,
11,
cool.
12.
No, fuck you. You don't get to keep saying numbers.
I want to keep saying numbers.
I will end your life.
What if I just... That escalated quickly. Damn.
Yes. Well, I wanted you to know I'm not fucking around. I'm just...
Just own the rest of the numbers.
Yes.